Yeah. Yeah. While we're on UFC, we might as well stick to the card this weekend.
Yeah.
Like I kind of mentioned in the introduction there, this is probably the best non-pay-per-view card we're going to have this year. It's absolutely stacked, and in any other kind of time frame, this probably would have been a pay-per-view, but it has, as it's fallen, as the fights have come together, it's right before the Costa Adesanya fight next weekend.
Yeah.
So lucky us, we get it on for the free to air on KO over here in Australia. Absolutely awesome. Like you look at the prelims, there's a few decent names on the prelims there. The first one that jumped to mind to me was the Australian girl, Jessica Rose Clark.
Yeah.
What do you make of her?
Yeah, well, she's like you say, an Aussie fighter fighting out of Cairns, I believe. That's where she's grew up. So so she's an Aussie. Obviously, she's lost her last two by decision. So she obviously is looking to get back into the win column. But the interesting thing for me is that in her last 8 fights have all gone to decision. So so it seems to be you'd like to think it's leaning more towards a decision, but her 2 notable decision wins of note are the Bare Knuckle crew, who we mentioned a couple of weeks ago, of Beck Rawlins and Paige Van Zandt, that she has decision wins over. In terms of Sarah Alpar, I don't know too much about her, but initial, looking at the stats, looking at the research there, I'm going to say her by decision, but I could be wrong. How do you see it?
It doesn't look good for that Sarah Alpar. She hasn't even got a picture on the UFC website yet. That's
really?
So you've not made it yet.
Yeah.
But like you said, it's a big fight for Jessica Rose Clark. She, like you say, she's lost the last 2. Don't know how many fights she's got left on her contract, but you can't help but think where she sits in that the bantamweight division, you need to win this one. By hook or by crook, get it done. I think she's had a lot of problems with like weight and stuff in the past, where she's really struggled to make that weight, or she's not been in. I know she's moved around camps from what I can see. Just looking on Instagram and stuff like that. So it looks like she's more settled now. I think she lives out in Vegas or over on the West Coast somewhere. She's got a good striking background, so I think you'd like to see her kind of showcase her skills. Like I say, I don't know much about Sarah Alvar, but it looks to me like she's being set up for a win here, to get her a win back get her in that win column. And hopefully I think she'll get it done. I think she'll
hopefully.
Yeah, fingers crossed. The other notable name on the prelims was Bektic.
Yep. He's probably similar to Jessica Rose, so also lost his last 2. Danny Ige and Josh Emmett, so nothing to be ashamed of by any of them 2. And I think Ige was a split decision as well, so fairly, can go kind of either way on that one. But I would say the interesting thing about this fight is, I can't even remember how you say the guy's name, but Garagori, I think, he was supposed to be fighting a guy called Garagori, obviously on Sunday. But he got, 2 days ago, got tested positive for COVID. So his opponent now has changed to a guy making his UFC debut called Damon Jackson. Right. So he's come in on short notice. It's kind of one of those things, so important in this era of COVID to stay fit, stay ready. Yep. So the interesting thing for me is Damon Jackson is stepping up, making his UFC debut. And in his 17 fights that he's had, obviously outside of the promotion, he's won 13 by submission.
Ooh, right.
So I think, obviously, given those stats, a bit of a submission magician. So I've got a feeling I'm going to put my neck on the line here, and I'm going to say this guy is going to win on his debut via submission and will beat Bektic. But
it'll be a huge if he manages to pull that off. Because Bektic was very, very highly rated coming in. I believe he's a striker. On the feet. And he's had wars. At the fight with Josh Emmett, I believe, was war. I think he was winning that fight up until the last round, if I'm not mistaken. So we know he's got the credentials. But that's interesting, and it's like you say, in these kind of weird COVID times, it really does pay to stay ready. And who knows, this guy coming in, Bektic won't have had any time to prepare for him.
No.
it really just leveled the playing field on. Whereas you think Bektic might have a bit more experience being in the UFC, this really just levels the playing field because he's not had time to prepare for it. So that's an interesting bet. I'd be interested to see what odds his opponent is now. Actually, that's one to watch as well. And I think that kind of sums up the main names, the prelims.
Yeah.
Moving on to the main card, we've got Holland and Darren Stewart.
Yeah.
We've seen both of them relatively recently. I think probably in the last month or so.
Yeah.
Kevin Holland looks incredible. He kind of coasted through that last fight, but he was just obviously on a different level to his opponent, from what I remember. Yeah. Very, very good striker. He looks kind of calm, composed, picks his shots. And I think that was kind of the direction he was getting from his corner, was to kind of feel his way into the fight. Darren Stewart, on the other hand, up and down career in the UFC, from what I can follow. He went on a 3-fight losing streak, I believe, and then has slowly kind of clawed his way back up. Had a really great performance. I think he won by was it a guillotine in his last fight?
Yeah, it was guillotine choke.
How do you think this one will go?
I think this has all the makings, and it's tough to say because of, let's say, the more stellar names that are on the card. But I've got a feeling this is a great fight to open the card because I think it will be the sleeper of the night, where you go, wow, this kind of, and they've put it there because it sets the tone for the night. It's that type of fight. The interesting thing is, like you say, they've both fought recently. Both got performance of the night bonuses in the last fights. So obviously Stewart with the submission, Holland with his knockout, I think it was, TKO. Yep. So both of them are coming in on performance of the night, 50 Gs and all that. So both coming in with a lot of confidence. I am leaning towards Stewart. So I will predict that Holland will be the next person to be drilled by the dentist, and I will be saying a decision victory for Stewart.
Right. I agree with you. If I'm making predictions, I think Darren Stewart's got power in his hands, and I think that's gonna. My thought is that Kevin Holland's gonna go into this probably quite confident of his last performance, and he's gonna walk onto something. I think he's a bit too calm. He's probably gonna underrate how good Darren Stewart is, and I think there'll be a KO victory for the dentist.
There we go.
The dentist. Mackenzie Dern up next. Love watching Mackenzie Dern fight. She's fighting Randa Marcos. The first thing I noticed when I looked at the two girls in this fight was I hadn't really heard of Randa Marcos, to be honest with you. She's not a name that I've come across before, but I should have, because she's fought Claudia Gadelha.
Everyone.
Another big name as well, recently. Who's the other one?
She got a win over Angela Hill.
Oh, right, okay, yeah. And there's somebody else that she's fought more recently, and she lost.
Reba. They both fought Rebas.
Rebas, yeah, she fought Rebas. That was her last fight. I think it was in maybe March or February this year.
Yeah.
So she's been in there with everyone. She might not have got the wins, but she's going to have that experience now.
Yeah.
And you look at Mackenzie Dern, and we all know what her credentials are. 2-time world BJJ champion. So we know what she's going to want to come and do. I have noticed, though, when you look at her training recently, she spent a lot of time with Jason Perillo of Michael Bisping fame.
Yeah.
So she's working on the striking, which is what you're going to need to do if you want to work with that division. I don't think you can be like a one-trick pony. No matter how good you are, you've got to be able to compete with the best on the feet as well. I would assume still her kind of break glass moment is going to be she's going to try and take her to the ground and do work on her. But from what I can see, she is doing all the work on her striking, and maybe she'll want to test herself. Maybe she'll want to see if she can stand with Marcos. How do you see it going?
Yeah, it is an interesting one, actually, because like you say, she's kind of giving that impression that it's stand up, but given her background, she can easily dismantle you on the floor. So you're absolutely right in terms of, obviously, Mackenzie Dern's last fight was Hannah Cyphers, obviously via submission. Both lost to Amanda Ribas. I would like to be choked out by Amanda Ribas, but we're a family show, so we're not even going there. But I just thought I'd put that in. But so they both lost to Ribas. But the thing that I really liked about Dern this week is kind of her mentality, or the things that she's been saying. So Mackenzie Dern is really angry about the loss to Amanda Ribas because it's took away the undefeated streak. But that could also be a very good thing. Now that she knows how to lose, you never want that happen again. And all the things that she's been saying this week is, I'm 10 times better now. Gone back to the drawing board. That loss has really hurt. And I predict this could be the best Mackenzie Dern that we see at the weekend. Now, you're absolutely right with Marcos fighting a lot of big names. So I think she got a notable win against Angela Hill, who was last week's main event.
Yep.
But one thing that I will pick up on one of her losses is that she lost via armbar to Courtney Casey. Oh. So she's only got one submission lost to her record, of course. And yes, she can be caught out. But I've got a feeling that, Mackenzie Dern is a lot better on the ground than Courtney Casey is, no disrespect to her. So I've got a feeling, Dern could try and manipulate something there. So I will put my neck on the line and I will say an armbar finish for Mackenzie Dern.
Yeah, I can't see past Mackenzie Dern in this one. The other thing I'll say about her in the prep, and you never know how much kind of weight this holds, but she looks like she's in incredible shape. If you look at her as well compared to some of the last fights that she's come in, I would say she looked in incredible shape. And you never know, with all the social media she's putting out there and the talking of the striking, it can be kind of misleading, kind of, because you lead Marcos to think, oh, she's going to want to stand and bang here. And then she might be spraying for a takedown. And then that's all she wrote. It's over. So I'm looking forward to that as well. But I agree with you. I think Mackenzie Dern will get it done. Yeah.
Well, obviously, moving on from the girls is another interesting fight next. Yep. Again, another great fight in Johnny Walker versus Ryan Spann. Now, I want you to break this one down first and foremost. But one thing I wanted to ask, and I think this should be the case, is do you have any idea if Johnny Walker has a nickname?
No idea.
Because I don't think he does, right?
Johnny, could we come up with one? Have you got any ideas?
Yes, what it should be. His nickname should be Johnny Red Label Walker.
Where did you pick that up from?
Just like the whiskey, Johnny Walker whiskey. So if he was American or if he was English, I reckon they would have took the Johnny Walker whiskey moniker, probably branded or, some sort of thing there, like the proper 12 and all that. But anyway, I just wanted to ask if he had a nickname. I don't think he does. But Johnny Walker, we've spoke a lot about this guy in the past. Matt, what are your thoughts on this one? How's this one going down?
Every time he's coming, and I'm pretty sure we've watched his last 2 fights together, and every time he walks into the octagon, and you see him move in the opening sequence, and you're like, oh, he's good. He's so dangerous. And then twice now, he's walked onto something because, and it's actually very similar to what we were saying about that Michelle Pereira last week, where it's just mad, unorthodox, incredible talent, incredible athlete, but he needed his skills to be honed in by someone. From what I can see from Johnny Walker, he'd spent a lot of time, he didn't really have a home or didn't really have a set camp, which he settled in. He spent some time in TriStar, I believe, with Frat Zahabi. Moved around, obviously he's from Brazil. This camp he spent time with John Kavanagh, obviously Conor McGregor's coach in Dublin. And it seems like they got on like a house on fire. And this could be exactly what Johnny Walker needs. He needs someone who's going to give him the discipline in the corner, because he does have all those skills. He's an incredible athlete, like a truck. He's got a big skill sets. You don't know what he's going to hit you with. But he needed to be able to hone in the confidence a little bit, dial it down, be a bit more methodical, stay in the fight a bit longer, not be so erratic. And I think John Kavanagh could be perfect for that. He'll hopefully have instilled with him a bit of discipline. And he'll be a sensible ear in the corner as well to rein him in when he gets a bit erratic. But the same with Michelle Pereira. You don't want to completely take away that element of his game, because it's who he is. He's very, very insecure and erratic. He's been matched up here really cleverly with Ryan Spann. Ryan Spann's on an 8. Is it Ryan Spann? Yeah, 8-fight win streak. Looks incredible. He's got a win over Little Nog, which again, no mean feat. So it's a tough matchup for Walker, but I think it's also an important matchup. I think Walker's coming into this and has to win, or he's going to lose that hype, because it obviously he's somehow managed to maintain, because people can see what he's got in him, and he's just not managed to kind of put it together yet. I think you've got one more fight here before people kind of start to write you off. But Ryan Spann's not an easy matchup, and it's going to be a great fight, I think. How do you see it going?
No, you've summed it up perfectly there. I think the important thing for Johnny Walker, and it's kind of a bit of a theme tonight about getting back into the win column and doing what you have to. The fact that he's moved to SBG under Kavanagh, needed that old school guy, like you say, to discipline him a little bit in case, stop the, kind of, reel it in a little bit, and obviously, he deals with Conor McGregor, of course. So then you could argue, well, Conor fights with his hands behind his back and all that type of stuff. But it's you can't compare, someone to Conor, for example. But no, you're right in what you say. Both, it's an interesting matchup. Ryan Spann cannot be taken lightly at all, given his record. I think that there will be a win for Johnny Walker. I think it will be. I think we're going to see some sort of crazy knockout, or I think there's going to be some. I think there will be a spectacular finish to this one. So I'm just leaning towards Walker, but it's a tough one. Have you got a prediction for that one?
I agree. I think Johnny Walker, mainly because I think there's so much on the line for him. I think he has to win this fight, and I think he's going to know that as well. He's been a little bit less erratic, I would say, in the build-up. And I know there's not been the same kind of press on him and things like that with COVID or whatever. But even in the media day and the face-offs, you're doing some mad, messing around and not taking it very seriously. It looked to me like he had his head screwed on and he knew he was here for business. But I don't think we should underestimate Ryan Spann. I think it's going to be a great fight. I agree with you that I think we'll see a spectacular knockout, because both of these have got power. Could go either way. What I would like to see, and ideally in terms of just to see what they're really made of, I'd like it to go the distance. Usually I'm the one crying out for a knockout, but I'd like to see Johnny Walker navigate his way through a fight.
Grind it out. Just get a win, but also get that experience, get the time in the octagon against a really good opponent. And I think there'll be a bigger win for him doing that, and it'll answer a lot more questions than if he just goes in there and knocks a guy out, because then we still don't know what he's capable of, if you know what I mean. I'd like to see him grind through 3 rounds with a really tough opponent and come out with a win. No, I agree. And do you think, just finally on that, with Ryan Spann, like you say, not taking him lightly and learnt, do you think that was a case in the Corey Anderson match? Do you think it was a very much underwhelming, I'm the star, I'll get past this gatekeeper? Is that could that be a similar thing repeating itself, or has he learnt?
I'd like to think he's learned, and I mean it's happened to him twice now, where he's been caught. Corey Anderson was the last one. Nobody thought Corey Anderson was going to win that fight. No. Nobody thought Johnny Walker would come in and knock him out. I'm pretty sure Corey Anderson thought the same thing. His reaction after he was over the moon. It was a surprise to everyone, and I do think that, again, if you compare it to this time, Johnny Walker he's messing around. He's wearing the daft suits, and he's taking selfies and stuff on the media day. And you must look back on that now. And it's part of his personality, and it's part of the act, and it's entertainment, all that kind of stuff. But it's great if you're winning. It's not like a win streak that he's put together. Like, you've got to go hand in hand. And I'm sure he looks back at that now and he's like, oh, I don't. I think he was looking past a lot of people. But that's what you need, a good team around you. You need John Kavanagh, though, who's been through this rigmarole of growing a personality and growing a fighter obviously with Conor, but with other people as well. And he's been down this road, and I'm hoping he's in his ear being like, mate, you've not done anything yet. Forget all of that rubbish. You're going in here, you've got a really tough fight ahead of you. You need to grind this one out, and then we can talk about having a good time and stuff. So I do. Mainly because he's got that team around him now, and he's with John Kavanagh. I think that is going to be what gets him to this fight.
Absolutely.
I'm looking forward to that. It'll be fireworks, whatever happens, I'm sure.
I agreed.
Who's up next on this card?
The hype train, baby.
So Kazmat Chimaev is fighting Gerald Merchant. I don't know if I've said that right. Sorry, Gerald. I mean, I'll ask you, I guess, to break it down. And there's obviously a bit of a backstory with this, and it's a bit of a gripe for Merchant, I guess.
Yeah.
What do you make of how it's all kind of come together?
Yeah, it's interesting. I know that we obviously went into detail about Chimaev at the start of last week's show. The UFC, obviously, Chimaev has looked, Khabib 2.0, looked an absolute beast and, the real deal. So much so the UFC has double booked him for a fight. So he's obviously fighting Gerald Meerschaert, but he's also got a fight scheduled against Damian Maia as well. So the UFC are obviously pretty confident that he's going to come through this one unscathed, which, yes, when you look at it, you can say that and say, yeah, no one's caused him any trouble, But I think the way this is played out, it's got the making of a true underdog story, and kind of, be careful what you wish for, or whatever one of you say, because UFC shouldn't be doing that. It's very disrespectful to Gerald Meerschaert to book him in another fight when, Gerald Meerschaert could send him to the hospital and it's surgery and you don't know, it's a fight game, So, yes, he's looked good. Should they have double booked him? No. Gerald Meerschaert has nothing to lose in this one. He's the underdog, nothing to lose and everything to gain, which, as a fight fan, as a betting man, as a sport fan, they're the kind of stories that we like to write. So I'll throw it back to you, Matt. Are you on board with the Chimaev hype train, or what's going to happen on this one?
No, if we're using train analogies, I'm doing that thing where I'm like hanging off the door and like the wind's blowing through my hair. I'm not on board. I am not on board. He looks incredible, and I can't take that away from him. He's, again, using a train analogy, steamrolled his last two opponents.
He's on the right track, though.
He's also on the right track, I would say. Yeah. But he hasn't fought anybody yet. He fought John Phillips. I mean, is he? I'm not sure he's in the top 15 of that division. He fought Reece McKee, who was making his UFC debut. Again, not taking anything away from these guys, but Kazmat ran straight through them. We didn't get to see anything. He didn't hardly get hit, which is a feather in his cap. But I'm not on that train yet, and I think double booking him is asking for trouble, especially if you're putting him in there with someone like Meerschaert, who's very, very experienced, an incredible grappler, who won't mind being on the floor as much as his other opponents might have been. Obviously, Kazmat can do some damage down there, but again, Meerschaert's probably a lot tougher. He's probably taken a lot more damage. He's been in a lot more wars. If I'm Meerschaert going into this fight, my main thought would be to inflict as much damage as I possibly can on Chimaev so that he can't fight on Fire Island. That would be my mentality. It's because he'll absolutely feel like he's been overlooked. And I would just want to inflict as much damage so that you're sending this dude to the hospital. And I know that sounds savage, but you're sending this dude to the hospital because you've been overlooked. And it would be an amazing underdog story. Like, I really, really don't want Kazmat to win now. I don't want Chimaev to win. I think he's getting too big for his boots already. I don't like it. I'd love to see a great fight. And you know what? It's a test, isn't it? Because we could be wrong here, and he could be the real deal. I just haven't seen enough of him yet. I just don't know whether he is or not. If he comes in and if he straight away goes for the leg of Meerschaert, takes him down, does the same thing, pushes him against the fence and beats him up, then we're all going to be like, right, cool, now we're on board. I'm pulling myself on that train. You're on board. Because you can't argue with that. Once you've come through someone like Meerschaert, you can't argue with the fact that this guy's something special, and then it'll justify the UFC. They'll be rubbing their hands being like, told you, we had it right, we know what we're talking about. Yeah.
But, do you have any idea what the betting odds are for that fight at all? Or? I'm
pretty sure. I'll double check. I was looking at putting something on before. I'm pretty sure
4-1.
Guys paying something like 4-1, which I'm definitely getting on, because if you lock two guys in a cage, nobody should be that big of an outsider. Especially when we don't know enough about Chimaev yet.
What makes me wonder with the whole double booking thing is, I wonder if it was a bit of a mistake, as in, just not saying an administration error, But they've been putting fights together. They announce it and they go, yeah, Chimaev versus Maia. Yeah, two people on, comfortable on the floor. And then it's come to light and then someone's gone, hang on a minute. He's actually in a fight first. And they've kind of sold it as, oh, well, he's double booked and it's such a thing. But part of me also thinks when it was first released in the early, whether it was actually a bit of a mistake and not to say the UFC wouldn't pick up on that, but a bit of an error for this to happen. Or maybe Dana wanted this to happen.
Someone's been hauled over Dana's table.
I don't know.
I'll have one eye on this fight and one eye on Dana sitting cage side with his head in his hands, just praying that Chimaev comes through in one piece. Not even just comes through it, that he comes through it in one piece. Because I think they see him as, a potential future star and something to fight. And a lot of people, we were saying before, a lot of people have benefited out of this time, this kind of weird COVID period in the fight game. And he's going to be one of them. If he comes through this fight, he's going to skyrocket up. And it shows that Dana at this time is willing to reward those people that are willing to fight whenever, wherever, on short notice. We were saying before, Kevin Holland, Darren Stewart, they fought multiple times. And Dana rewards those people. Yeah. And I think this is his idea of Chimaev, because he stepped up on Fight Island and fought twice at two different weight categories. This is his way of rewarding him and saying, I've got faith in you. And then he's booking him ahead of time. Mm-hmm. And I guess because it's on Fight Island and logistically it's quite difficult it's harder to do last minute fights because you're not in the country. Yeah. You've got to kind of book these people ahead. And I think if you want Chimaev to fight on both, you're going to have to double book him. You just got to cross your fingers that the gamble pays off. Do you think it will? In a one-word answer, do you think he beats Merchant?
Head, yes. Heart, no.
Oh, exactly the same. I also think he beats him. I hope he doesn't.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at with that one.
Yeah. Well, next up, I want to come to you for this one because I know, fight fans all over the world, UFC fight fans, this guy is at least in your top 5, probably in your top 3 as favourite fighters. But I want to come to you first on this one because I know deep down that he is probably your number 1 guy in the UFC. Yeah. Cowboy Cerrone is back in the octagon once again. Matt, is your boy going to do it? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, Cowboy's back, and I'm stoked. You're right, he is my number 1. If there was a Cowboy train, I am driving that train.
Yeah, more like a horse, really, but it's fine.
I'm looking forward to it because he seems like he's in a good place. We often see the best Cowboy when there's nothing riding on it. There's no pressure. There's no kind of expectation. He's not fighting for a belt, or he's not looking towards a belt right now. Yeah. They've just matched him up with someone who is also on a bit of a run, fighting well in Nico Price. And I think it's set up for It's perfect for Cowboy. It's perfect for the way he likes to fight. He likes to go in there, be pally with the guy beforehand. There's no animosity. There's no pressure. Yeah. He likes to go in because he loves to fight, and that's why we love Cowboy. He will fight anyone, any place, anytime. He's got the most fights in the UFC. His record speaks for itself. He wins some, he loses some. He's had runs at the title, got close, fallen away. Obviously, he's coming off a bad defeat to McGregor, which was an example of how the pressure can get to him and how that doesn't really perform under those lights. But then his last performance against Anthony, that was a super close fight, but that's exactly what you wanted to see from Cowboy. Yeah. I think he'll get the win in this fight because I think he's going to be relaxed. I think what he's got to watch out for is that he doesn't let it get into his head as the fight goes on. You usually see Cowboy build, and that's exactly what he did in the Pettis fight. He built as things were going on. Yeah. He definitely works on. There's definitely a psychological element to him where his confidence grows if he's doing well. He's not great at coming back from adversity within the fight. That's what I see from him anyway. And I think it's one of those ones he's got to be careful early on that he doesn't get cracked because this Nico Price is a powerful guy. If he starts to get under the cosh early on, you're going to start to see him wilt, and I don't know whether he can come back from that. Mm-hmm. But if he gets into his rhythm, if he's enjoying himself out there, I think you'll see Cowboy get a win. And I don't think it leads to anywhere for him. It just leads on to more good records, I guess, that he's got for wins and bonuses and all this kind of stuff. But I do think it could be an absolute crack of a fight if Cowboy can get himself into it from the start. What do you think? Am I way off, or am I?
No.
Like glasses
no,
off?
it's
Like,
it's smart. Yeah, no, it's logical in what you're saying. I definitely agree. It's all about the headspace, the mindset, obviously the whole Conor hype, as you know, time and time again. Like you say, these big fights can get to him a little bit, but he's in a good headspace. As I say, what I've liked this week is he's not talking about retirement. He keeps saying, I'm ending on my terms. I don't want my promoters to give me the walking papers. He's very much, thinking about longevity. He's become a father for a second time in the past week or so as well. So I just feel as though he's relaxed and he's at peace, he's at ease, and he's just going to turn up, clock in, do his job, and hopefully, clock out and get his hand raised. So I am also leaning to Cowboy as well. As I say, we both love the guy. I know he is your man. And I think he'll do it. And one thing that I think we will do as well on, I know it's a particular highlight of ours, is maybe this week on the In the Red Corner YouTube channel, we may even share Donald Cerrone's cave diving video, maybe, just to tell you a little bit about him. For anyone that hasn't listened to it or seen this clip, we won't tell you anything about it, but this guy comes back from adversity. That's the big thing. He's experienced adversity. Yeah, I'm going Cowboy in the win column.
Yeah, I think to touch on the video, I think it's probably my most talked about video. If ever I'm talking to anyone and YouTube comes up and people start sharing YouTube videos, this is my go-to, and it tells you everything you need to know about the man in a 15-minute video clip. So, we'll definitely share that this week because it is it's an eye-opener, and you don't listen to it before you go to bed. Before you go to definitely don't. All right, and then it brings us to the main event. This has been, 2 years in the making? Tyron Woodley and Colby Covington. I'm really looking forward to this fight. And I guess I'll come to you and let you kind of break this down of how you think this one plays out.
I agree. There's 2 years of bad blood in this one. It's really it's built to the climax, obviously, on Sunday. And for those who are, the uninitiated, these two do not like each other one bit. Colby Covington plays the heel. Now, for those that don't know, in pro wrestling, the heel is the term of the bad guy. So the bad guy character is known as the heel. That's what he plays. He is the guy who you tune in and you want this guy to lose. Now, it's not just about that, because Colby Covington is an unbelievable fighter. And as much as the way he is, there's part of me that does admire him, really, because I think, and I always take it back to when Joe Rogan said he knows Colby on a personal level, and he said he's a really nice guy. He was going to get cut from the UFC and plays this character that with the MAGA hat, with the rubbish suit, just to get under your skin. But that's what you've got to do in this business, because people tune in, like I said earlier, because you want to see him lose. He's coming off his last fight against Kamaru Usman, so he was going for the belt. He does not stop one bit. Comes forward, he swings. The forward pressure is with, obviously, Colby all the time. Now, Woodley, also someone that the fans don't like, and probably for someone who talks as much, but doesn't back it up as much. Someone who, yes, has had the gold, has been there. His title reign is probably the opposite to Colby in terms of tuning in. You tune out for those fights. Woodley, for me, and I want to get your thoughts on this, but in watching Woodley in his last couple of fights, very underwhelming. And it seems as though he's holding a lot back for me. He's kind of maybe not throwing the hands as much. I don't know if I've read that wrong, but how do you see this breaking down with these two?
No, you've read it exactly right, and I'll echo your thoughts. I guess firstly, I'll touch on Woodley. He's for me the biggest disappointment. Whenever I watch him compete, because I know what he's been capable of, and I've seen his knockouts of Robbie Lawler. I've seen his knockdown of Carlos Condit. I know what he's capable of. And the last couple of fights, Darren Till aside, I mean, who we could argue was or wasn't ready for that fight. Darren Till aside, his last couple of fights, like you say, he's just not let his hands go. He just doesn't, to me, look like he wants to be there. He gets put in uncomfortable positions, and he doesn't seem to have the fight or the whatever, if it's the cardio or whatever it is, to get himself out of it and impose his kind of will and his pressure on the fight. Yet he talks a massive game. He's very, very confident in himself, and he manages to make you believe coming into the fight that he's going to do something, and this is what he's going to do, and this is how he's going to win, and that's just how it is. And then the bell goes, the cage closes, and none of that things that he's been saying has happened. And he said this probably the last 2 or 3 fights now, and this time he's doing it again. He's talking a very big game. We've noticed he's working with Masvidal. You know, he is letting his hands go. He's more relaxed in there. You know, his cardio's better. He's been cycling or doing triathlon, whatever he's been doing.
Making shit rap music.
Yeah. And I'm just like, you're going to have to prove it to me. I don't believe this until you prove it. Covington, on the other hand, to be honest with you, going off the last couple of fights, the last couple of times we've seen Tyron Woodley, Covington's his worst nightmare. It's his worst nightmare. He's going to stay right in your face. He's not going to give you that time to throw these big overhand rights. He's not going to give you that time. He's going to press you up against the fence. He's going to beat you up. If you want to wrestle on the floor, he's going to compete with you. These are 2 very, very high wrestlers. There's no advantage there for Woodley. I'd say Woodley might have a power advantage, but I think Covington's got everything he needs to negate that power, i.e. he's going to be in your face from the word go. We know he's got an incredible gas tank. He's shown that every time he's fought. He fights 5 rounds, and he doesn't let up for a second. He definitely, even though he's fought for the title, he lost to Usman. He didn't disgrace himself in that fight.
No.
Contentious stoppage, it's another story, whether we think it was too soon or not. Colby would argue it is. I'd probably say it wasn't, but he was in that fight until the very, very end, and no one else has been able to stop Usman.
Yeah,
so,
agreed.
I can't see past Colby Covington for this fight.
No.
I think just to finish on that, I think he's just doing all the right things. I watched his press conference this morning, and like you were saying, in terms of playing that heel, playing that bad guy, nobody does it better. He is incredible. He can do it with the most deadpan face, and he says the most ridiculous things and the most controversial things. And it's funny now because I know he doesn't mean it.
Yeah.
But you believe that he does because his face is deadpan. I don't know if you saw it, but at the very end, it was a Smo asked him what he thought of Gilbert Burns, and 3 times he asked him the question, and 3 times he was like, "Who?" And didn't break a smile, didn't look sarcastic. He is in character, and it's absolutely brilliant. And I love to hate him, and I hope he wins.
Yeah, he would have a very successful career in the WWE. When he packs in, he's got a very bright future there as well. But one thing to play, I know you said obviously in terms of the matchup, it's a nightmare for Woodley. And one thing I would argue as well is it could also be the best matchup in a sense, because if Woodley can knock out the bad guy and the guy that everybody wants to hate and tune in to lose, if the old Woodley comes back, no holds barred, and destroys Covington in devastating fashion with a knockout, that respect and that boring and that, it's Woodley and that sort of hate for him, this is the one fight that can bring all that coming back. Yeah. Just the way it is, I would say. Yep. But he's got to let them hands go, and he's got to go for it. Because if he doesn't, then just go get out the UFC if you're not even. It would be very interesting to see. Well, I tell you what, it'll be. I wouldn't surprise me if he's fed to Chimaev in the not future. If you lose this fight, Tyron Woodley, because if you want to stay in the UFC, he's going to have to prove something. If he fights in the similar way to that he has, but yeah, he's got power in those hands, and he hates Covington enough that if you're going to get up for any fight, if you're going to find some adrenaline and find some drive and grit from somewhere, this is the one. If he doesn't do it here,
it's time to pack it up and go back to his career.
Yeah.